here's the latest in the Aadhaar case. The Supreme Court today constituted a 9-judge bench to decide if the right to privacy is in fact a fundamental right. The bench will hear arguments on the case tomorrow. Remember, petitioners had approached the apex court challenging the government's move to make Aadhaar mandatory for various public welfare schemes. Petitioners arguing that Aadhaar, which requires biometric details, encroaches on a citizen's right to privacy. Ashmit joins us now with the details. Ashmit, what can we expect the government to argue tomorrow?
Right, so is the right to privacy a fundamental right? That is one big question that will be answered by no lesser than 9-judge bench of the apex court. 9 leading judges of the apex court will dwell over this question. Is right to privacy a fundamental right? Now, this question necessarily flows from the Aadhaar debate, from the Aadhaar pleas before the apex court. The petitioners raising the question that Aadhaar in its current shape and form, which requires the submission of biometric data, storage of biometric data, necessarily involves questions of privacy. Now, importantly, these arguments by both the petitioners on one hand and the government on the other will be heard tomorrow. 9 judges will assemble first thing in the morning, tomorrow 10:30, and they will look at and adjudicate over this question. Now, what's critical here is that one has to look at the sense of jurisprudence that has developed in India. There are 2 key verdicts here which need to be kept in mind. Number one was in the 50s. The next one was of 60s. That's MP Sharma, as well as the Kharak Singh verdict. And both of them have broadly held that privacy is broadly a right, but not a fundamental one, does not enjoy the same status as perhaps the fundamental rights. And that's one key distinction those key verdicts have made. What the apex court, what the 9-judge bench will seek to do is to test both those verdicts. And that's the reason why we have 9 judges. They will test, they will review the correctness of the judgments, see if the judgments which were passed back in the 50s, if in the 60s, are still in line with contemporary needs, contemporary requirements. And that is something that the apex court will be dwelling upon. Coming to the government's submissions, the government has made it very clear that it will be in fact going forward arguing that yes, the right to privacy is indeed a right, it is available, but it flows from common law. The subsequent argument essentially is that there is no explicit provision in the Constitution. Unlike the fundamental rights which have been clearly listed, there is no explicit provisions under the Indian Constitution that provides for a right called the right to privacy, and that it is not a fundamental right, does not enjoy the same status. So big day tomorrow, 9 judges adjudicating on whether the right to privacy is a fundamental right that you have.